Welcome to the Tim Castle Show, where I sit down with courageous individuals doing inspirational things around the world. Come with me on this journey, meet the people, I pull back the curtain, I find out who they really are. I started off building this podcast for my sons as something they could look back on later in life and see the conversations that their dad had with people that he respected and admired, but most of all, get the lessons. And now I'm sharing those lessons with you and the reasons that people have done things, the ambition, the passion, and the hardship, and their vulnerabilities. And I actually really enjoy it. This is one of the most special times as I get to sit down with people that I really would love to chat to and ask them the questions that are burning in my mind. If you are the same as me and you're pushing the limits and the edges of what you do, please like and subscribe to the show. It helps me tremendously to get new guests on the show and expand that reach so we can help more people together. This is an episode that you're not going to want to miss. I've got Robert Cialdini on the show. He is the godfather of influence. Right now on the show, talking about everything to do with likability. How do you become more likable? How do you influence that? How do you set yourself up for success in a new job? What should you do next? How can you leverage the principle of reciprocity? This is all out of his books, Influence and Persuasion. These are seminal books. These are foundational books in the topic of persuasion and influence. You have to have read these. If not, you may as well hop on in and listen to this episode because it is a power-packed episode. Every 2 seconds, Cialdini is dropping absolute knowledge, wisdom, and insights. You will not be disappointed. If you don't check this out, you can only blame yourself because here he is, the man himself, the master, Robert Cialdini. He is amazing and it's such a privilege and an honor to have him on the show. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation because that's what this is. It's a conversation. It's not scripted. This is Robert throwing out absolute insight, pure gold, hit after hit after hit. You only have to listen to the first 10 minutes and you'll have got something that could have changed your life forever. So take it away, Robert Cialdini. Alrighty, welcome back to the Tim Castle Show, where we explore what it really takes to believe it is possible. And today I am beyond excited because I've got the one and only, the godfather of influence, Robert Cialdini on the show. He has been someone that I have looked up to for many, many years, and especially his book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. We're going to dive into it all and the 7 key principles of influence. But I'm just so grateful to have you, Robert, on the show, talking to our listeners today and sharing your wisdom.
Well, thank you, Tim. I have to say I'm looking forward to it.
I know we're really going to dive deep into the real science behind influence, and reading your books, like, they do stand out. As an author myself, I love it when a book is nice and easy to read, yet the language in it almost invites me to read the next sentence. It's almost influencing me all the way through. And I felt that with your book. It's everyone should get a copy, especially this one, because it's been redone, right? There's been extra bits that you've amplified in there. And actually the 7th principle of unity has been added as well. So I was thoroughly enjoying that when I was researching for this show and knowing that you were coming on. What I want to start with is the concept of likability, because this comes up a heck of a lot, especially with other podcast guests, right? I had someone on the show the other day, a negotiator, and he was like, look, I'm great in short-term interactions. I'm fine with training people, but actually when it comes to long-term relationships, I really want to work on my likability. So I wanted to ask you, what is likability in your mind, and how do we get more of it?
It's a sense of rapport or warmth, connection with another person we are attracted to in a general sense. We're attracted to that person. We like being with that individual. We like being around them. We like talking with them and so on. Those are the things that I think characterize liking. How we get there is interesting, though. That's the question that I think we always have to ask when we're dealing with principles of influence, not just the concept of liking. How do we operationalize that so that it becomes a greater part of any interaction with somebody else? And there are really 2 major things. One is similarities. If we can point to existing commonalities that are inherent in the exchange with somebody else, They like us more immediately. We like people who are like us. There
Mm.
was a study done of negotiators. If before they began the negotiation, they sent information to one another about their hobbies, about their interests, about their families, and so on, the number of deadlock negotiations dropped from 30% to 6%.
Wow.
And the reason was not the amount of information they learned about their bargaining partner, but whether there were parallels in there. Oh, you're a runner? I'm a runner.
Mm.
Oh, you like scary movies? I like scary. It was the similarities that drove that remarkable willingness to give grace to the other person. So similarities are one of those things. Not only do we like people who are like us, the second is praise. We like people who do like us and say so, and say so. Right? I think that's, to be honest, my greatest weakness has always been that I will hear myself saying commendable things about people to myself. And when I began reading the research on praise, it was clear I needed to change something. I needed to move the praise from my mind to my tongue. And
Mm.
as soon as I started doing that, I can't tell you how much better the rapport was because I was honestly saying something about the admirable traits of another person. And I said we like people who like us, and
Right.
we like people who do like us and show their approval. And the
Mm.
best information I've gotten in this regard is how you do that online. It turns out if on your landing page you put a welcoming statement and say, "Welcome to my site. I really appreciate you being here." You get more conversions before they read any single word of what you have to say because you've established a sense of approval.
Oh my
And
goodness.
people are now going to improve of what you have to offer. So liking very powerful.
I knew this was going to be a masterclass, but right out the door there, Robert, you've just literally, yeah, you've done it again. I think there's so much there that the audience can grab hold of. And I love the piece about you were speaking out in your mind these good traits that people had, but when you switched to actually articulating them and actually telling that person, the whole world of your network opened up. And
You
the
know,
other thing,
I'm a communication expert, and that was the key. I had to
that was
say
the
to
unlock.
myself, Cialdini, just because you feel these things isn't the same as communicating them.
Mm.
It's the communication process, the messaging process that you have to harness in order to get the benefit of that sense of positive feeling.
How amazing. And that increases our likability to the other person. One question I had on this, and this is a real situation that came up last week. I was about to do a business deal and I was wondering, should I send ahead of time to someone I haven't met yet that we were setting up a meeting? Should I send ahead of time the things that I know are commonalities. Like, look, we both used to live in Australia. Like, I used to live in Australia. Like, give it a bit of an intro about myself ahead of time to this person, or should I wait until we're in the interaction on video and then sort of guide that process? What's your take on that?
Both. Send it ahead of time.
Ah,
You want those positive vibes to be in that person's mind before they ever get online. And then you just remind them.
mm.
It's interesting that we both used to live in Australia, and that was something that was of interest to me, and I'm glad we have that connection. Just reinstate it, and now it's higher in consciousness. But all along, that person has a sense of commonality with you that readies them for the interaction before it occurs. Yeah.
So it's being we like people that are like us and like us. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
encapsulated part.
Good
I
way to
saw
say it.
I saw this really cool thing that you said about if we were to complement a trait that we wanted them to have, they would end up living up to that trait almost. Is
Right.
what's like that about?
So, no, they're exactly right. So one of the things I say is, praise people, right? And
Right.
honestly, don't invent them. Find something truly commendable about that person and choose one that you would like people to continue to exhibit in with you. In other words, give people a reputation to live up to with your praise.
So
I really appreciate how conscientious you are and how I can depend on you in these things that you don't back away from whatever it is, you know, you say that and you will get more of it
mm,
because you've given them the reputation as that person and they will want to be congruent with it.
like to your team, like I love how diligent you are and you
Yes.
always go the extra mile or you
Right. You
always
always come prepared for meetings, or you're the one who is most prepared for meetings. They will always be prepared for
right.
meetings because you're expecting it and you've given them that reputation. Yeah,
So is that an identity thing? They grab onto that as an
they
identity or
do.
they
They do. You've installed it as a trait that is in your mind that is an expectation of theirs. So, uh, you know, uh, I've done it myself. I still get my newspaper delivered in the morning, and the guy
Hmm.
who delivers it sometimes throws it on the side of the driveway, and it gets wet um, with watering systems. So I wrote him a little note uh, and said, thank you for being so conscientious with most of the time getting my paper in the middle so it doesn't go wet. It went from 75% to 95% in the middle because I had given him that reputation. He was going to live up to it now. Yeah.
Cialdini, I love that you have got the data on it as well. You measured it and
Yeah.
you were using these tactics on your newspaper delivery guide. That is awesome. That is so cool. Another one of the principles that I absolutely love and have known because of my background. My background is in negotiation. Like that's been my when I first started, I worked as a negotiator for the first decade of my career, and there's always been something that I've been trying to teach, which is this idea of reciprocity. But how does that really play out in human society?
Reciprocity is probably the oldest of these principles, the one that has existed in us because we are socialized in every human culture that we give back to those who have given to us. If we don't, we're violating the norms of our culture. And we have very nasty names for people who take without giving in return, right? We call them
Hmm.
moochers or takers or ingrates or teenagers, actually. And nobody wants to be labeled like that. And so, uh, and so people are, they want to give back to us if we have given first. And there's a very clear uh, recommendation. Give first.
Hmm.
Give first. All right. And then people will give in return. So, for example, in a negotiation, if you make a concession, one that you feel is expendable from your side, it's not that big a deal, but you make a concession to your opponent, and then you say, what can you provide in return? Or it's their turn. It's their turn. And you don't even have to spur it very often, but they will say, well, here's what we can do. And that can be much more valuable because they've chosen something that might be much more beneficial to you than the one that you gave away because you've forged that first one and then it comes back to you, right? So those are the kind of things you can. There's a lovely study that was done in McDonald's that when this was in Brazil and Colombia. So this principle works across various cultures. Every family that came into the McDonald's in those two countries for a week received a balloon for each of the children. Right? Half of them got the balloon as they were exiting as a nice thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you for frequenting McDonald's. Here's a balloon for your child. The other half got the balloon as they entered, and the parents bought 25% more food.
Yeah.
They went first.
Mm.
So frequently at the end of an exchange, we'll give somebody a nice thank you for, make
Yes.
that first. Go first. They want to do the deal with us to a greater extent then because we've given them something and it's their turn to return the favor.
Absolutely. A penny drop moment just happened. You've hit the nail on the head. And I think there's so many businesses out there that they know they need to give something, but they're actually giving it at the end of the exchange, after the purchase has taken place, which is actually less effective. What you're saying is
E-
enter the store, give them something, you're going to get 25% more purchasing power.
Exactly. So, for example, there was a study of people who wanted respondents to fill out a survey for them, right? And they promised that, okay, and when you turn in the survey, we'll send you your fee. Versus they wrote a check when they
Right.
sent them and they got significantly more compliance before before
Yeah.
people did it because they felt that they had received something.
They
And they got
increase participation.
significantly more if the money came up front rather than at the end as a payment. A payment closes an interaction. A gift opens it.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. How can I use that then? Say if we're starting a new job, say if someone's out there, they're going into a new job and they want to apply this exact principle of the gift up front.
Okay, so you go into a new job, you look around and don't ask the following question. Hmm, who can most help me here
Uh-huh.
in this job? The question should be, whom can I most help here?
Okay.
You do
Uh,
something and you've got an advocate, you've got a supporter, you've got somebody who is now going to clear hurdles away for you to do better on the job because you've begun the relationship by giving a favor, a service, information, whatever it could be that would benefit that person on the job. That person's going to want to give that back to you to benefit you on the job. And it will be an insider who really knows the
mm.
ropes.
Is there something around the fact that when people can help you out with a challenge, they're almost more supportive? If you ask someone for help, they then become invested in your success, so then they feel a part of it. Is there
This is
that?
such a good point that you've made because you've gotten a collaborator,
Mm.
you've gotten a partner, right? So, and this has to do with another. Uh, remember, if you change one word, right? And when you ask that person, right? If you ask a person to give you their opinion or their feedback on an idea you have, you get a critic. If
Yeah.
if you ask for their opinion, right?
Mm.
If instead you change one word and you ask for their advice, you get a partner.
Amazing.
And what the
Amazing.
researchers, and there's multiple studies on this. If you exchange the word opinion with advice, they like your idea better and they give you better input on it because They are your collaborator.
Yeah.
You've put them, do you know this saying, people don't sink the boats they're riding in?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's a no, I didn't know that. That's a yeah.
Your job as a communicator is get people into the boat with you.
Hmm.
They're not going to sink it. If they're in there with you, in fact, they're going to want to improve it. They're going to want to stabilize it, make sure that it floats and moves forward because they're in there with you. So one word, instead of asking for an opinion or feedback, if you ask for advice, the research is very clear. You get better judgments of your idea and you get better input on how to improve it.
Wow.
They're your
That's what
partner now.
that changes them to a collaborator from a critic. If they were just giving feedback or an opinion, you're not going to get as
Exactly.
valuable collaboration and such.
Exactly. It has to
Yeah.
do with this principle of unity that you were talking about
Mhm.
that we've added. Uh, if you ask for an opinion, people step away from you. They separate from you and they go inside themselves. They literally psychologically step away from you. Ask for advice and they step together with you.
Oh man. I like we're 20 minutes in. I don't think I've ever done a podcast where my jaw-dropping moment has been so open for the whole time. Like this is remarkable stuff. Like, and that's why people need to get on and get your books. And that's why, like, this applies to so many situations, even the part around the human nature of we don't like takers. Like, we all know we don't like a taker, or we don't want to even be labeled a taker. And then
Right.
my kind of like my question on that would be, what about people that are takers but are trying to mask it? How do we kind of deal with that and what would show up in us to like understand, like we understand energetically perhaps this
Right.
person's not who they say they are.
Again, give them a reputation to live up to. So let's say somebody, um, you do somebody a favor. You go out of your way. You give them something, and they say, "Oh, thank you." How do you get them to do more than say thank you? You say, listen, I know if the situation were ever reversed, you'd do the same for me.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to say one more small change. Don't say, if the situation had been reversed, I know you would have done the same for
Uh,
me. That's in the past. That will never happen. But if you say, should the situation ever be reversed, I know you would do the same for me. You've given them a reputation to live up to now.
you've planted that identity in them.
Right.
My goodness. Yes. And then you've nullified. They can't really, they want to be
Right.
consistent to
They,
that. And
they want to be congruent with
yep.
the positive reputation that you've assigned them. Yeah.
Who don't say you would have done this because that's happened and they don't
That
have to live up to that.
that's
Say,
right.
should this happen in the future, you'll do the same for me. So
That's such
then
a good insight. That's exactly right.
this is
Go away from the past. Go to the future because that's where a return favor is going to live. It's in the future.
this is so good. This is so good. I could like I mean, this is my favorite subject, and you are the favorite teacher. So this
Mine
is just
too.
amazing.
I mean, all my life I've been curious about human behavior.
Yeah.
And the thing that we're focused on now, I have this company called the Cialdini Institute. We're focused on something we call the small bigs.
Okay.
These things that we've been change one word, right? Change a sentence, change the sequence of how you make a request, right? And it's almost costless and
Hmm.
it still produces big effects. So what's the smallest change you can make to your persuasive approach that produces the biggest return on that investment, the biggest impact on your persuasive success. So these are the kinds of things that I'm bringing up now because they're all at the top of my head. They're the ones we're finding in the literature of behavioral science and then bringing them into our teachings.
Yeah, I've seen it, and it's littered throughout the book. Like even at the beginning, where you're like talking about the tortoiseshell jewelry that wouldn't sell, and the fact that then someone mistakenly put a half sign on there and then read it wrong, and they 2x the price, and then people think that more expensive equals good. Like there's all these
Yeah,
simple ways that you
yeah.
can tap into. I think you call it click run programming, like
Click
click.
run. So
Yeah,
there are certain programs in us, and I'm going to assign each of these seven principles to a separate program for spurring human behavior, like reciprocation. If somebody gives to us, there's a program that says, "Oh, now it's my turn. I'm obligated to do in return." Right? What's the click? The click is you have to go first, and then the program runs. And then the program takes over in that person, a program that's been installed in that
Mm.
person from childhood. You must not take without giving in return. Your mother told you that, your kindergarten teacher told you that, your minister told you that.
Yeah.
That's in there. You just have to get it to click and run.
It's and there was another like this is just remind me of another one where it was you said people were queuing up to do photocopying, and if they kind of said, I've got 5 pages, can I go in front of you? The response rate would be quite low. But if they said, I've got 5 pages, can I go in front of you because I'm in a rush? It would increase because they gave a reason. And then I think you proved that even if they said, I've, I've got 5 pages, can I go in front of you because I need to do copying? It still went up as well because
That's
it,
right.
it, it clicked run. It didn't matter
That's right.
what
The
words.
word because was the click. It meant, okay, here comes a reason. Right? And even though the reason was because I need to make copies, well, that's everybody in this line needs to make copies.
Yeah.
That doesn't add any new information. But it wasn't the reason, it was the click. It was the word because. People need reasons for doing things, and you just give them the semblance of a reason and they will comply. So, what you found, exactly what you said. So, if you just say, can I go ahead of you and make 5 copies? You get about 65% will say yes. If you say, can I go ahead of you because I'm in a rush? You get 94%. If you say, can I go ahead of you because I need to make copies, you get 93%. It's
Good. Yeah.
it was the click of the word because that ran the program. Oh, I should say yes to somebody who has a reason.
And I've literally been spotting these, the best of the best, like as of a few weeks ago. Now I knew this. I'm like spotting how people are doing this. Oh, will you give me a recommendation on LinkedIn? Or they say, will you give me a recommendation on LinkedIn because I'm competitive? And you just have the because, and you're then like, oh, of course, yeah, I'm going to do it. But if you have to just give a recommendation, you're like, oh, I might do it later.
Yeah. The because is the initiator of of a program that starts to run that has been installed in us. Yeah.
So it means that if you can learn the click runs, you can influence people around you literally by saying these conversion words and then asking for advice and like all of these things layered on make you
That's right.
a very capable influencer. When we think about scarcity and like loss, how does loss play a role in that
Yeah.
principle?
Well, scarcity is another one of the principles, and it's very well documented that people want more of those things they can have less of. Right? What's the implication of that for you? It is number one, if you have something unique about your offer, your presentation, what your idea, right, bring that to the surface You
Mm,
can't get this anywhere else,
mm,
right? People will want it more. They start leaning in to hear what you have to say about this thing because it's scarce. Right? And here's where loss comes in. Loss is the ultimate form of scarcity. It means you can't get it anymore if it's lost. Right? So if you cue that with the word loss or missed or for you will forego these benefits, the the system runs. I'll give you a study that uh, demonstrates this. Re Researchers went door to door selling a home insulation and weather stripping program for the houses. Or so, uh, and half of the homes were told if you install this weather system, weatherproof system and insulation and so on, you will save $1 a day every day in your utility bills, right? That was for half of them. The other half were told if if you don't install this system, you'll lose $1 a day every day. Can you feel the difference
mm,
emotionally? Because
mhm.
they those customers did because they bought the the insulation package significantly more if they were told about what that they would lose this dollar as opposed to gain this dollar. And it has to do with the idea of loss aversion. We hate the idea of losing opportunities. We hate that more than we like the idea of gaining that same opportunity. We hate losses. And so if you honestly tell people of the benefits they will miss,
Mm,
they're going to be more likely to move in your direction. You still get to talk about benefits and advantages, but not just what they will gain, but what they will forego. And
wow.
there's plenty of research to bolster that.
So, so front run everything with what you're the most unique at. Make sure that is apparent, and then frame everything from a opportunity loss perspective to generate the most action.
Right.
That's yeah.
That's a perfect summary of that long, winded
Well, no, it's great, and
discussion I just
the
embarked
reason
on. Yeah.
is because you make it. This is what I was saying about the book. I love how you word things and you tie these ideas. It's ground. I mean, I love the fact that you went out and you applied to sales training jobs so they could teach you their tactics because these are guys that are like they're going out there to get compliance, to get people to say yes. So you went and studied them, right? It comes from
Right.
studied experience.
Undercover. I entered their training programs as a kind of spy to
Right.
learn what they found was successful in
Yeah.
marketing, sales, advertising, public relations, and so on. I learned and people often ask me, what was the one thing that most surprised you in your research? It's that there are only 7
Mm,
principles that all influence professions use. There are hundreds of tactics and practices and so on, but you can understand them, categorize them in terms of only 7 universal principles. And only 7, that's we can handle 7.
mm,
If you've seen these books that say 100 ways to
mm,
influence people,
mm,
you can't remember 100. You can remember 7.
mm. And you can remember the word because to put it and give a reason, and suddenly you've got that
Right,
principle and you can remember reciprocity and giving first, and you can start to activate that and show how you can become a
right.
master at these the more you weave them into your daily
Yeah,
interactions.
that's right. And there's small things. Of course, I know you would do the same for me. everybody that everybody can remember that.
But the cool thing is before you say this or before you teach us this skill, we're almost more likely, or it feels more likely to say the other thing, which was just, oh, you do the same for me, would have done the same for me, not you will. And once you make that tweak, like you said with the small bigs or what, it's like it's a small adjustment with a huge ROI on your influence. It's
That's
absolutely amazing.
precisely right. That's the idea of the small big. The things that are costless in terms of time, attention, and expense, and yet produce a big impact on your
Mhm.
success. If we can, and this is where I am now. I'm like a shark in the water. I'm prowling all the time in the journals
Mm.
and on various scientific outlets to find these small bigs, right? That connect. Here's the latest one that I found, and it has to do with liking. Do you know when you send a text to somebody, right? A lot of times you abbreviate. There are a lot of acronyms you use, and you know in that the more you abbreviate, the less they like you
No way.
because they don't see you as taking the time
Yes.
to spend with them.
Oh my goodness.
So if you say, here comes the following, I'm going to send you that info. They like you less than if you say, I'm going to send you that information.
Subtle, but it's massive.
I know. I just saw that last week. Wow.
I love this because you're boosting effectiveness and you make that one change. It's like you've done the research to know that that's a stat there that actually produces a massive amount of likability, and all you have to do is spend the time to fully craft that message,
Right.
and
But
you're doing it.
exactly right. But it's in line with the general idea of liking.
Mm.
People like those who like them and put out the effort to demonstrate it.
Yes, and the the interesting thing is in sales and in these practices with AI and all this automation tools and templates, it's the exact opposite that is almost trained to do. Like, hey, we can just put a link here and you can click my diary and book anytime you want. And there's almost no personalization. There's no, I can automate a response. And it's like literally going away from it's how can we shortcut everything and then
That's such a good insight that what technology is doing to us now is separating us from one another. We work in front of a screen alone. We inform ourselves by asking Alexa or Siri or Wikipedia or to give us the information or chat GPT,
Mhm.
right? We're not asking one another. We're separating ourselves. And as a consequence, we want those connections more. We're being deprived of the ones that we've always resonated with. Familiarity, approval, similarity, these kinds of trust. We want them. So if we can build them back into our digital um, communication, like with text, don't abbreviate.
Mm.
People like you more. They see you as warmer toward them and willing to give them the time and effort, right? Uh, uh, have a welcoming statement on your landing page. You know that commercial for Capital One credit card. What's in your wallet? Here's my question. What's on your landing page?
Mm. Is it welcoming? Is it
The
inviting you in?
first thing should be a welcoming statement.
It's
Yeah.
like we are commoditizing. Like basically, what you're saying is there's a huge advantage for anyone that wants to put these into play and start becoming more human
Huge.
at a time that technology is pushing us to cut it off, and you can just
Man,
weave it back in.
that's so perceptive, what you just said, because technology is, and we can't stop the streaking advance of technology. That would be like stepping in front of a bullet train. We're
Mhm.
not good. What we can do is load humanizing features onto the technology, to the technological systems, like texts
Mm.
or email landing or a website landing page. Load that in.
Make people feel appreciated and state it. And like you say, weave
Right.
in the good compliments that are going through. Like, you could almost say, thank you so much for coming to my site. You must be an intelligent blah 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 because you like, and you can start complimenting, and then they resonate, and then you start to
Compliments. So I'm glad we're aligned,
mm,
similar in what we are interested in
mm,
and can do for one another. Just something like that.
mm. You're making that commonality. And so where does the consistency and the kind of commitment, because I understand this one where you're securing a deal, you want to influence, but if you get them to make a public commitment, you're going to sort of move the needle a lot more than if you don't. Like, how does that play into influence?
So I think it has to do with the way you ask your questions of them. So let's say you know that your real strength is in security or durability or uh, or cost, right? Whatever
Mhm.
it is, you begin by asking, how important is cost to you? How important do you see security of your data as being, right? You ask them to make a commitment to go on record elevating the thing that's your strength. And then you present your offer and or your proposition, and they're already on record
Uh,
to you as supporting that thing. And they're also on record to themselves of valuing whatever that thing is. You've asked them to speak to that. If eh, eh, so, how do you ask the question? What question do you ask to get them to make a statement that's truly inside them? You're not
mm.
f- fooling them in any. You're asking them to search inside them and specify how important a particular factor is to them. Right?
What if they then said, honestly, and you know your cost is quite competitive. What if they said actually cost isn't the top priority on our criteria, and they made a commitment, but it wasn't to your strength.
Yeah. Th- Then, then you say, well, but would you say that cost is one factor that you would
Okay, so you
take
still
into
get the
account?
yeah.
Because we also have quality, but we have it at cost, at efficiency, right?
Yeah.
For that return on investment.
So you use the thing that they then say and take it back to the thing that you're strongest at and saying, well, in this instance, it's brilliant because you actually get both. You get the thing you really value, and now you get it at
Right.
a price that you also said cost is a factor. So
Yeah.
it's a win for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Massive.
I have a friend who's a Boy Scout troop leader. He has two sons in the Boy Scout, and they try to raise money for the Boy Scouts by on weekends, going to supermarkets. They put up a table outside. Maybe you've seen them. And as people come out, it's a strategy that Boy Scout troops use. They're selling popcorn. They say,
Yeah.
"Excuse me, would you like to buy some popcorn? It would help the Boy Scouts." Right?
Yeah.
And they get very little uh, traction with that because people are already, if they wanted popcorn, they would have purchased it in the store,
Sure.
and they've already spent their budget and you're saying, okay, so I have this friend, he says we get only about 15% of the people who buy our popcorn. So, well, so what do you say to them? And he said, well, as they come out, we say, excuse me, would you like to buy some popcorn? It would help the Boy Scouts. Say,
Mm.
try this. Excuse me, do you like the Boy Scouts? Do you favor the Boy Scouts?
Mm.
Say yes. And then you say, well, would you like to buy some popcorn? It would help the Boy Scouts. So you go on, you get them on record as testifying to something that's truly in there, attraction for the Boy Scouts.
Uh-huh.
And then you say, well, here's something you can do in
To
that
support
regard
your
to help
attraction.
us.
Yeah.
And
You
and now he gets 51%
51. Okay.
from 15. Now, and here's the best thing. Some people, after they have said, I like the Boy Scout, they will say to them, look, I don't want your popcorn, but here's $5 for the Boy Scouts. So that they don't even have to lose their popcorn.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
It's so
commitment and
effective.
consistency. Commitment and consistency. What do you commit? What do you ask people to commit to initially? That's already inside them.
So I
That
saw one
purpose.
where you were like saying, I can't remember it exactly, but it was about blood donation. And the guy was saying, do you want to give blood for a year? And then they said no. And then
Right.
there was something to do with that play.
Right. That was a reciprocity thing where
Ah,
not only do we give back favors, we also give back concessions to make. So we went out on a college campus and said to people walking by, we're from the Blood Services Organization. We were partnering with them. Uh, would you be a long-term blood donor? Means you have to give blood every 6 weeks for 2 years.
mm,
No, no, I can't do that. Oh, well, if you can't do that, would you give blood tomorrow at the annual drive here on campus? And we significantly increased the number of people who then went and gave blood because they said, okay, I can do that. They made a concession and they made a commitment to themselves. Well, if you'll make a concession to me, I'll make a concession to you and promise to show up at the blood services trailer on campus. And they did.
oh my goodness. Yeah, there's so many ways that we could frame things or could encourage using these techniques for people to actually just to stop and take the behavior that we want, the saying yes behavior, the compliance behavior. You really have studied the psychology of compliance. It's
All my
fantastic.
life, I've been
Yeah,
interested
yeah.
in that. Yeah.
And you're still going, and that's what I love about this. I hope to
Well, I
one
am
day.
still going because I'm a lifelong learner, Tim.
I love it.
I just love taking in new information, new insights, new findings, uh, and then communicating them to the larger world.
We definitely, well, we thank you for your work. How do you see this evolving, right? Because I know your book, Persuasion, as well. And obviously, these books have sold like 7 million copies. They've translated into 44 languages. Like you are absolutely everywhere, and everyone I know knows your work. But when it comes to things like AI and the evolution of social proof, right? We know that social proof is important. What about fake social proof and AI and all these different blogs? And how do you
Yeah,
see that playing out?
I'm very worried about that, and
Mm,
I'm asked, and what I want people to do is not to just accept the information that comes from AI because they hallucinate. AI, large language models hallucinate. They suggest things that don't actually exist in
mm,
reality. Uh, they'll claim that there are studies, and there aren't those
mm.
studies that show this effect. And so the key is when you when you get that information, don't just blindly accept it. Run your own examination of things um, and make sure that uh, when they present that information, uh, you if you find that it was mistaken, get online and announce that. We have to sting them. We have to penalize those systems and those people who use those systems to move us in directions that are not warranted by existing research. Right? Um, so what
Well,
I would love to see as an AI program is one that takes whatever information you get from one LLM model and runs it through an ethics check,
yeah,
run it through a dishonesty or reality check. So I want that program to be in everybody's screen, that they can go and check it to see if it's true. Then I'm happiest.
that's a
And by the
valid.
way, when you come to genuine, if you are somebody who's presenting genuine social proof, right? Let's say I've got 100 5-star reviews, right? And you honestly have them. Here comes the small big that connects to a person or to people. You say, I have 100 5-star reviewers, not reviews. Reviews are check marks on a what do you have in your mind when you see 100 reviews? You see check marks or some a 5-star, 100 reviewers?
People.
You see 100 people
Mm, it's
who are
massive.
advocating here.
Mm,
Massively different.
mm. So
Hook
big.
human connection back into everything you do, and you will be happy as a result. You will be satisfied by the outcome.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's such a small shift, but such a gigantic difference in the image that's conjured up, right? Because yes, you're right. Reviews, some of them can be fake. It's nothing. It's got no one assigned to it.
That's right.
Reviewers, oh my
Right.
goodness, you've got loyal
Reviewers,
fans.
there are people there. There are
Yeah.
people. Do you know? This is interesting. You know what the two most um, popular new marketing techniques that I won't say popular, I'll say most effective
Mm.
marketing techniques in the last decade have been influencer marketing. There's a person there.
Mm.
And here's the one that I didn't recognize. Right? Handmade products have been
Oh,
37% more successful in the last 10 years because we're being deprived of connection to a real person. There's a person there. If it's handmade, it's not a machine.
yeah.
It's not being manufactured by some technological device. It's a person. Anything we can do to put people back into the minds of the individuals we are honestly seeking to move in our direction, the better it will be for both sides.
Cialdini, this was, is, has been one of the greatest conversations of my life. This has been, as I knew it would be, but it's a masterclass that I want people to watch over and over again and just really get the granularity of what you're saying and how to weave human into everything they do because your work is timeless, it's phenomenal, and you're changing millions upon millions of lives, and your legacy is just amazing. Like
You
I'm,
know, that's the thing. I'm interested in spreading the reach of ethical influence. So, for
mm,
example, we have a masterclass on December 5th and 6th coming up,
mm,
where the focus is going to be on application, on application, on application of these concepts, not just an understanding of them.
mm.
No, how do we implement their value? Yeah.
What would you like people to do following this conversation? Where do you want people to go? Is there a, you know, what action would you want them to take?
Well, if they wanted to come to that master class, they could go to cialdini.com and get in some information about it. But I think the key is to know the small bigs because you don't have to change your influence DNA on some wide ranging. You just have to know what the seven principles are and the smallest thing you can do to harness and activate those big systems that drive our choices.
This has been absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely. I've thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this
And I
conversation.
have too, because we were talking earlier. This was a conversation, not an interview. And that's what, I think
Time
that's so
flies.
much more valuable
Right. And
when
like
both parties learn something in the exchange. Yeah.
I feel much more, I feel completely at ease. I've literally, I feel much more cleverer, but I'm going to go and put these principles into much more depth of action and just see how far we can run with this. I thank you again for coming on, for sharing your wisdom with the audience, who I know have got so much out of this. And yeah, I hope long may it continue. And yeah, just thank you again. I'm very, very grateful.
I enjoyed it, I have to say.
I'm really, really glad. I'm really glad.